for those who are going to be riding out the weather this weekend. And so I now want to bring into the conversation Josh Shanley with Purdue Global Emergency Management. As a professor and faculty member, Josh, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's keep it very simple. In some of these situations, we're worried about the weather outside, and we're talking about some of those road conditions or even what you can do at home to make sure you're staying safe. Because while it may be beautiful, these winter storms can often have a really important impact on safety. And so when you're I want to start with this. Inside of the home, what measures can people take to make sure that they're approaching this winter weather this weekend safely?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that when we see such a large winter storm on this scale that you just described, it's not just the snow that's concerning. It's how it can disrupt everything else: power, travel, access to supplies. The best thing people can do right now is to prepare to stay home safely for at least a few days, especially if roads or services become limited. That means food, water, safe heat, and communication. It's about readiness, not panic.
And so that's a key term. I appreciate you for bringing that up. Readiness, not panic. That can often be the sort of anxious feelings that come along with this. And so, Josh, as we're continuing to look ahead, people at home, they may be trying to stay warm. Are there certain ways with space heaters or certain safety aspects that you should have fire safety during these times?
Yeah, of course. Safety is paramount, and staying warm without power can be a real challenge. So we want to keep it safe and simple. So you want to have extra blankets, warm clothing, layers, and if you're using a backup heat source, make sure it's rated for indoor use. So you never want to use a grill or a generator inside. And you always want to make sure you have carbon monoxide detectors. That's paramount. Make sure they're on battery, and that if you're using generators outside, they're not being ventilated into the house. I've seen unfortunate circumstances like that. So carbon monoxide safety is paramount in these types of events.
And so we're taking a live look there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, yet another area that has been impacted by the winter storms. And Josh, as we were seeing there on the screen, there are still some cars who are out and about on those slick road surfaces. What's your advice? Again, we've been hearing from several of those state and local officials telling people to stay off the roads, but it does seem paramount in these moments when this is starting. But some of those impacts, because it's not just snow, it could be ice that's also coating some of those roadways.
Yeah, it's these compounding events. It's the snow, it's the wind, it's the cold. In some cases it'll be the ice. So it's these cascading events that really make these types of storms complicated to plan for. So if at all possible, get your hopefully you've done your planning and your shopping and gotten everything home, and stay off the roads if at all possible. Make sure that you have flashlights and batteries. You don't want to be using candles, having alternate light sources, and any sort of backup power supplies like cell phone chargers. All of those things is paramount. People should really be prepared to remain where they are now for about 3 days, 72 hours. That's a good rule of thumb.
And so I have to ask you about that. So we've been hearing a lot about how long this winter storm and the effects are set to last. In fact, we were just listening into that press conference coming to us out of Boston. There was the school superintendent who was making time to have some of those remarks because they're saying the effects are going to linger into next week, possibly Monday or Tuesday. What else should folks be prepared for in the next few days?
Yeah, it's important to stay focused on what is happening in your area. A storm like this on this scale that's so widespread, it's very difficult to make predictions. So we always encourage people to stay connected with their local emergency management offices, state emergency management, and the National Weather Service to understand how these storms are being impacted locally. In some cases, hyper locally, depending on wind conditions. These things can really span a large scale. So in some areas you'll get a lot of snow, in other areas not so much, and that wind. Or so it's really important to stay dialed in locally. If your community has a reverse 911 code red, that type of system, make sure you're plugged into that.
All right, and so we've been talking here with Josh Shanley here with us from Purdue Global Emergency Management. And so, Josh, any final thoughts before I let you go? Any parting thoughts for those who are sitting at home, possibly preparing for the impacts there on the East Coast?
Yeah, hopefully everyone's done their shopping and gotten off the roads. Make sure that the car is full of gas and that there's no reason to go out. So you want to check your supplies. If safe, check on your neighbors and stay informed through those official sources like those local emergency management offices that I mentioned, or tracking what's happening in your community through the local or the National Weather Service. So it's about being prepared. That's the best way to stay safe.
All right, and being prepared has really been what we've been hearing from so many, so we certainly appreciate you for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Scary situation, but we're going to do our best to keep folks informed and safe as well. Thanks so much, Josh.
Thanks, Christina.
All right, wanted to make sure we were able to bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. And